evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a production of Thornton Wilder's The Matchmaker.
All tonight's action takes place during the turn of the century.
In the Granite State. That's New York.
So please, silence your cell phones.
Whatever those are.
And unwrap your cough drops.
Now sit back, relax, and see how Match.com began.
Never mind. Boys and girls are riding their trains to New York City looking for work.
And adventure.
They find it as
Shop girls!
Junior waiters.
And housemaids!
Our story unfolds in 4 acts.
With a 10-minute intermission.
We'll be serving refreshments.
All right. Hurry up now or you miss your train. All aboard.
Now listen, Mr. Kemper. I tell you for the 100th time, you will never marry my niece.
And I tell you for the 1000th time that I will marry your niece, and right soon, too.
Never.
Your niece is of age, Mr. Vandergelder. Your niece has consented to marry me. This is a free country, Mr. Vandergelder, not a private kingdom of your own.
There are no free countries for fools, Mr. Kemper. I thank you for the honor of your visit. Now, good day.
Mr. Vandergelder, will you please sit still 1 minute? If I cut your throat, it'll be practically unintentional.
Ermengarde is not for you nor for anyone else who cannot support her.
But I tell you I can support her. I make a very good living.
No, sir. A living is made, Mr. Kemper, by producing something that everybody needs at least once a year.
Yes, but...
And a million is made by producing something that everybody needs every day. You artists produce something that nobody needs at any time.
That's not true.
You may sell your paintings once in a while, but you'll make no living off of such. Joe, go over there and stamp 3 times. I want to talk to Cornelius.
Not only can I support her now, but I have considerable expectations.
We merchants don't do business with expectations, Mr. Kemper. I don't make accounts with people who promise to pay me something, someday, somehow. And I certainly won't allow those people to marry my niece. No, sir. You go back to your little studio and paint your sunset on the Hudson and try feeding that to a family of 5.
Very well. From now on, you might as well know that I regard any way we can find to be married as right and fair. Ermengarde is of age, and there's no law that says...
Let me tell you something, Mr. Kemper. 90% of the people in the world are fools. It is I and not the law that will prevent Ermengarde from marrying you. And besides, I've taken some steps already. I've sent her away.
You sent her away?
Yes, to get this nonsense out of her head.
Ermengarde's not here?
No, she's not. I thank you for the honor of your visit.
Everything's ready, Mr. Vandergelder. I've just been packing luggage. Ermengarde's been helping me.
Hold your tongue!
Yes, Mr. Vandergelder. The luggage is all marked. Care Miss Van Heusen, 8 Jackson Street, New York.
Hell and damnation! Didn't I tell you it was a secret?
Care of Miss Van Heusen, 8 Jackson Street, New York. Thank you very much. Good day, Mr. Vandergelder.
It won't help you, Mr. Kemper. Death, at least you do me the courtesy of being dumb.
Tisk, tisk, such a temper. Lord save us.
Yes, Mr. Vandergelder?
Cornelius, go in and fetch my niece's luggage.
Yes, Mr. Vandergelder.
Wait. Gertrude, has Mrs. Levi arrived yet?
Don't shout. I can hear perfectly well. Certainly the labels for the luggage are ready.
Have the buggy brought round to the front of the store in half an hour.
Yes, Mr. Vandergelder.
This morning I'm joining my lodge parade, and this afternoon I'm going to New York. Before I leave, I want to talk to you and Barnaby. It's good news. Fact is, I've decided to promote you. How old are you?
33, sir.
What? That's all? I thought you were 40.
No, sir, I'm 33.
A man's not worth a cent until he's 40. We just pay him wages to make mistakes, don't we, Joe?
You almost lost an ear on her, Mr. Vandergelder.
I've decided to promote you to chief clerk.
What am I now, Mr. Vandergelder?
You're an incompetent fool, that's what you are. But if you're lucky, you may be promoted to chief clerk, with a raise in your wages. And Barnaby from a idiot apprentice to incompetent clerk.
Well, thank you, Mr. Vandergelder.
Now go fetch my niece's luggage.
Yes, Mr. Vandergelder.
Joe, the world's getting crazier every minute. Fine.
I did what I could, Mr. Vandergelder. What with you flying in and out of that chair?
Fine. Joe, you do a fine job. The same fine job you've done for these fine 20 years. Joe, is there something a little special you could do? Something a little extra?
Huh?
I'll pay you right up to 50 cents. Do you see what I mean? Do what you do to the young fellas. Touching me up a bit. Smarten me up.
All I know is 15 cents worth like usual, Mr. Vandergelder, and that includes everything that's decent to do to a man.
Now hold your horses, Joe. All I meant was that...
I've shaved you for 20 years, and you never asked me no such questions before. And I don't intend...
Now hold your horses. I'm gonna let you in on a secret. But I don't want you telling it to that riffraff down at the barber shop that you hang out with. Truth is, all I ask is a little extra because, well, I'm planning on getting married again. And this afternoon I'm going to New York to call in my intended, a very refined lady.
You're getting married is none of my business, Mr. Vandergelder. I've done everything to you I know that charges 15 cents like it always is. And I don't dye no hair. Not even for 50 cents I don't.
Joe Scanlon, get out!
And lastly, it looks to me like you're pretty rash to judge which is fools and which ain't fools, Mr. Vandergelder. People that eat onions, bad judges, who's that onions, who ain't. Good morning, ladies. Good day, Mr. Vandergelder.
The world's going crazy. The asylums can't hold them all. They're flooding the country. What do you want?
Uncle, you said you wanted to talk to us?
Oh, yes. Gertrude, go and fetch my parade regalia. My lodge uniform?
What? Oh, yes. Oh, Lord have mercy.
Ermengarde, I had a talk with that artist of yours.
Oh, you did?
Yes, I did. He's a fool. Crying. Crying. Why don't you go down to New York for a while and you can cry where it won't be noticed? Ermengarde, I've done you a good turn. You'll come to thank me when you're 50.
But Uncle, I love him.
And I tell you, you don't.
But I do.
And I tell you, you don't.
If I don't marry Ambrose, I know I'll die.
Of what?
A broken heart.
Never heard of it. Mrs. Levi is coming any minute to take you to her house in New York. While you're there, you're not to receive any letters unless they're from me. I'm coming to New York myself this afternoon, and I'll call on you tomorrow. And who are you?
Malachi Stack, sir. Heard you wanted an apprentice in the hardware business.
An apprentice at your age?
Yes, Mr. Vandergelder. I bring a lot of experience to it.
Do you have any letters of recommendation?
Yes, indeed. First-class recommendation.
Ermengarde, are you ready to start?
Yes.
Well, go and get ready some more. Ermengarde, let me know the minute Mrs. Levi arrives.
That's Uncle Horace.
I don't want a sailor, nor a typesetter, nor a hospital cook.
No, Mr. Vandergelder. Excuse me. This one is from your former partner, Josh Van Tool.
Oh, Van Tool. Occasionally willing and diligent and somewhat honest and reliable. There seems to be a certain amount of hesitation about this recommendation.
Businessmen aren't writers, Mr. Vandergelder. Mr. Van Tool sends his best wishes and wants to know if you use me in the hardware business.
Not so fast. Tell me, why have you come to Yonkers?
I heard you had an apprentice that was good for nothing and your wits end for another.
Wits end, wits end. There's no lack of good-for-nothing apprentices.
That's right, Mr. Vandergelder. It's bosses there's a lack of. Seems like you have a new one dying every day.
What's that? Hold your tongue. I see you've been a valet and a barber, too. Why have you changed your place so often?
Changed my place, Mr. Vandergelder? When a man's interested in experience...
Do you drink?
No thanks. I've just had breakfast.
I didn't ask you whether or not... Idiot! I asked if you were a drunkard.
No, sir, no. While looking at it from all sides, I don't even like liquor.
Well, if you keep on looking at it from all sides, out you go. Remember that. Here. Despite all of your obvious flaws, I've decided to give you a chance.
You'll never regret it, Mr. Vandergelder. You'll never regret it.
This afternoon, I want to use you in New York. I judge you know your way around New York.
Do I know New York? Mr. Vandergelder, I know every hole and corner.
Here's $1.
Thanks.
Take this bag to the hotel on Water Street and reserve me a room. I'll be there around 4:30.
Yes, sir. Oh, but first I'd like to meet the other clerks I'm to work with.
You haven't the time. Now hurry. The station's across the street.
Yes, sir. You'll see, sir. You'll never regret it.
I regret it already. Now go on. Off with you. 90% of the people in the world are fools. And the other 10% are in grave danger of contagion. But I wasn't always free of foolishness, as I am now. I was once young, which was foolish. And I fell in love, which was foolish. And I was married, which was foolish. And for a while I was poor, which was more foolish than all the other foolish things put together in all of their foolishness. And then my wife died, which was foolish of her. And then I grew older, which was sensible of me. And then I became rich, which is as sensible as it is rare. Since you can see I'm clearly a man of sense, You're probably wondering why I would ever decide to get married again. Well, I have 2 reasons for it. First, I like my house run with order, comfort, and economy. That's a woman's work. But even a woman can't do it well if she's merely being paid for it. No, in order to run a house well, a woman must feel that she owns it. So marriage is really just a bribe to make a housekeeper believe she's a householder. Have you ever seen an ant carry a burden twice its size? What excitement, what patience, what will? Well, that's what I think of when I see a woman running a house. What giant passions in such tiny bodies. What quarrels with the butcher for the best cuts. And what fury at discovering a mop in the cupboard. Yes, believe me, if women could harness their natures to more than a house and a baby carriage, why, they'd run the world. And the second reason, ladies and gentlemen, I can see by your faces you've guessed it already. There's nothing like mixing with women to bring out all the foolishness in a man of sense such as myself. You see, I've just turned 50, and I've just laid side by side the last dollar of my first million. So if I should lose my head a little, I have enough money to buy it back. Yes, after many years' hard work and caution, I have the right to a little risk and adventure, so I'm planning on getting married again. Like all of you other fools out there, I'm willing to risk a certain amount of security for just that right amount of adventure. Think it over.
Psst, Ermengarde.
Ambrose, if my uncle saw you.
Shh, get your hat.
My hat?
Quick, your trunk's at the station. Now quick, we're running away.
Running away?
Shh.
Where?
To New York to get married.
Oh, Ambrose, I can't do that.
Why?
Ambrose, dear, it wouldn't be proper.
Listen, I'm taking you to my friend's house. His wife will take care of you.
But Ambrose, a girl can't go on a train with a man. I can see you don't know anything about girls.
But I'm telling you, we're going to get married.
Married? But what would Uncle say?
We don't care. We don't care what Uncle'd say. We're eloping.
Ambrose Kemper, how can you use such an awful word?
Ermengarde, you have the soul of a field mouse.
Ambrose, why do you always say such cruel things to me?
For the last time, I beg you, get your hat and coat. The train leaves in just a few minutes.
Good morning, darling girl.
Oh, good morning, Mrs. Levi.
And who is this gentleman who's so devoted to you,
This is Mr. Kemper, Mrs. Levi. Ambrose, this is Mrs. Levi.
Mrs. Levi, born Gallagher. Very happy to meet you, Mr. Kemper. Mr. Kemper, the artist, delighted. Mr. Kemper, may I say something very frankly?
Yes, Mrs. Levi.
This thing you were planning on doing is a very great mistake.
Oh, Mrs. Levi, please explain to Ambrose. Of course I want to marry him, but to elope?
Now, my dear, you go out and keep an eye out for your uncle. I wish to talk to Mr. Kemper for a moment. You give us a warning when you hear your Uncle Horace coming. Mr. Kemper, I was this dear girl's mother's oldest friend. Believe me, I'm on your side. I hope the two of you will be married very soon, and I think I can say I can be of real service to you. Mr. Kemper, I always go right to the point.
What is the point, Mrs. Levi?
Mr. Vandergelder is a very rich man, Mr. Kemper, and Ermengarde is his only relative.
Oh, but I am not interested in Mr. Vandergelder's money. I have enough to support a wife and family.
Enough? How much is enough when one is thinking of children in the future? The future is the most expensive luxury in the world, Mr. Kemper.
Mrs. Levi, what is the point?
Believe me, Mr. Vandergelder wishes to get rid of Ermengarde, and if you follow my instructions, he'll even permit her to marry you. You see, Mr. Vandergelder is planning on getting married himself.
What? That monster?
Mr. Kemper!
Married? To you, Mrs. Levi?
No. I'm merely arranging it. I'm helping him find a suitable bride.
For Mr. Vandergelder, there are no suitable brides.
I think we can safely say that Mr. Vandergelder will be married to someone by the end of next week.
Well, what do you suggest, Mrs. Levi?
I'm taking Ermengarde on the next train to New York. I shall not take her to Miss Van Heusen's as planned. I shall take her to my house. I wish for you to call on her at my house at 5:30. Here's my card.
Varicose veins reduced?
I beg your pardon.
I beg your pardon.
I meant to give you my other card. Here.
Aurora hosiery, instruction in the guitar and mandolin. You do all these things, Mrs. Levi.
2 and 2 make 4, Mr. Kemper, and they always did. So you'll come to my house at 5:30. At about 6, I'll take both of you with me to the Harmonia Gardens restaurant on the Battery. Mr. Vandergelder will be there and everything will be arranged.
How?
Oh, one thing will lead to another.
How do I know I can trust you, Mrs. Levi? You could easily make our situation worse.
Mr. Kemper, your situation could not possibly be any worse.
I wish I knew what you got out of this, Mrs. Levi.
That's a very proper question. I get two things, profit and pleasure.
How?
Mr. Kemper, I'm a woman who arranges things. At present, I'm arranging Mr. Vandergelder's domestic affairs. Out of it, I get little pickings. I need little pickings, Mr. Kemper, especially just now when I haven't got my train fare back to New York. You see, I am frank with you.
Well, that's your profit, Mrs. Levi. But where do you get your pleasure?
My pleasure? When you artists paint a river or a hillside, you make thousands of little changes, don't you? Well, I'm like you artists. Life as it is never quite interesting enough for me. So I do things. I put my hand in here and I put my hand in there and I watch and I listen and often I'm very much amused.
Not in my affairs, Mrs. Levi.
Wait, I haven't finished. There's one more thing. I'm very interested in this household here, and Mr. Vandergelder and all that idle frozen money of his. I don't like the idea of it lying in great piles in the bank, Mr. Kemper. Money should circulate. It should be flowing down among the people through dressmakers and cabmen, setting up a little business here and furnishing a good time there. Do you see what I mean?
Yes, I do.
And if you and Ermengarde get a good deal of Mr. Vandergelder's money, I want you to see that it starts flowing in and around a lot of people's lives.
Mrs. Levi, Uncle Horace is coming.
I think you'd better be going, Mr. Kemper. My dear, Mr. Kemper and I have had a very nice talk. You'll see, your Uncle Horace and I will be dancing at your wedding very soon. Oh, Mr. Vandergelder, how handsome you look. You take my breath away. Yes, my dear, I'll see you soon. Oh, Mr. Vandergelder, I wish Irene Malloy could see you now, but then I don't know what's come over you. You seem to be growing younger every day.
Allowing for exaggeration, Mrs. Levi. If a man eats well, there's no reason why he should ever look old.
You never said a truer word.
Why, I'll never see 45 again.
45? Why, I can see at a glance that you're the type that will be stamping about at 100 and eating 5 meals a day. I'm a judge of hands, Mr. Vandergelder. Show me your hand. Lord in heaven, what a lifeline.
Where?
From here to... It runs right off your hand. I don't know where it goes. They'll have to hit you on the head with the mallet. They'll have to stifle you with a sofa pillow. You'll bury us all. However, to return to our business, Mr. Vandergelder, I suppose you've changed your mind. I suppose you've given up all idea of getting married.
Not at all. Mrs. Levi, I've got news for you.
News?
Fact is, I've practically decided to ask Mrs. Malloy to be my wife.
You have?
Yes, I have.
Oh, you have? Well, I guess that's just about the best news I ever heard. So there's nothing more for me to do but wish you every happiness under the sun and say goodbye.
Well, Mrs. Levi, surely I thought...
Well, I did have a little suggestion to make, but I won't. You're going to marry Irene Malloy and that closes the matter.
What suggestion was that?
Well, I have found another girl for you.
Another?
The most wonderful girl, the ideal wife.
Another, huh? Well, what's her name?
Her name?
Yes, her name.
Her name! Oh, that's simple. Ernestina. Miss Ernestina Simple. But now, of course, all that's too late. After all, you're engaged. Well, you're practically engaged to marry Irene Malloy.
I ain't engaged to Mrs. Malloy.
Nonsense. You can't break poor Irene's heart now and change to another girl. When a man at your time of life calls on an attractive widow like that 4 times and sends her a pot of geraniums, well, that's practically an engagement.
That ain't an engagement.
And yet, if only you were free, I found this treasure of a girl. Every moment I felt like a traitor to Irene Malloy, but I tell you, I couldn't help it. I told her all about you just as if you were a free man. Isn't that dreadful? The fact is, she's fallen in love with you already.
Ernestina?
Ernestina Simple.
Ernestina Simple.
Of course, she's a very different idea from Mrs. Malloy. Ernestina is, like her name, simple, domestic, practical.
Can she cook?
Cook, Mr. Vandergelder? I've had 2 meals from her hands, and as I live, I don't know what I've done that God should reward me with such meals. I'm the best cook in the world myself, and I know what's good.
Well, then how old is she?
19, say 20.
20? Girls of 20 are apt to favor fellows of their own age.
But you don't listen to me, and you don't know the girl. Mr. Vandergelder, she has a positive horror of flighty, brainless young men. A fine head of gray hair, she says, is worth 20 shined up with goose grease.
Well, that's just not usual, Mrs. Levi.
Usual? I'm not wearing myself to the bone hunting up usual girls to interest you. Usual indeed.
Well, what's her family?
Her father? God be good to him. He was the best. what am I trying to say? Undertaker, the best undertaker in Brooklyn, respected, esteemed. He knew all the best people, knew them well even before they died. So that's the way it is. Now let me tell you a little more of her appearance. Can you hear me as I say? A beautiful girl, beautiful. She walks down the street, you know what I mean. The young men get dizzy. They have to lean against lampposts and she modest eyes to the ground. I'm not going to tell you anymore. Couldn't you come down to New York today?
Well, I was planning on coming to New York this afternoon.
Oh, were you? I wonder if something could be arranged. Oh, she's so eager to see you. Let me see.
Mrs. Levi, would you two ladies like a little dinner, perhaps?
Come to think of it, I don't know where I could find the time. I'm so busy over that wretched lawsuit of mine. Yes, if I win, I don't mind telling you I'll be what's called a very rich woman. I'll own half of Staten Island, that's a fact. But just now I'm at my wit's end for a little money to help cash it off. My wit's end. But maybe I could arrange something, I'll see. Yes, all I need is $50 and Staten Island's as good as mine. I've been running all over New York for you, trying to find you a suitable bride.
$50?
2 whole months.
$50, Mrs. Levi, is no joke. I don't know where money's gone to these days. It must be in hiding. Well, here's 20. Here's 25. I can't spare any more. Not now, I can't.
Well, this will help. Will help somewhat. Now let me tell you what we'll do. I'll bring Ernestine to that restaurant on the Battery. You know it, the Harmonia Gardens. It's good, but it's not flashy. Now, Mr. Vandergelder, I think it'd be nice if just this once you could order a real nice dinner. I guess you can afford it.
Well, just this once.
A chicken wouldn't hurt.
Chicken? Well, just this once.
And a little wine.
Wine? Well, just this once.
Now, about Mrs. Malloy. What do you say? Shall we call that subject closed?
Not at all. Mrs. Levi, I'd like to have dinner with Miss,
Simple.
Yes, Miss Simple. But first, I'd like to make another call on Mrs. Malloy.
And Miss Simple? Dear, 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 what races you make me run. Very well, I'll meet you at one of those benches in front of Mrs. Malloy's shop at 4:30 as usual.
The buggy's here, ready for the parade, Mr. Vandergelder.
Cornelius, call in Barnaby. I want to talk to the both of you.
Yes, Mr. Vandergelder.
Now, Mr. Vandergelder, do get your thoughts in order. I can't keep upsetting and disturbing the finest women in New York unless you mean business.
I mean business, all right.
I certainly hope so, because, you know, you're playing a very dangerous game.
Dangerous? Dangerous, Mrs. Levi?
Of course it's dangerous, and there's a name for it. You're tampering with these women's affections, aren't you? And now the only way to save yourself is to be married to someone by the end of next week. So think that over.
This morning, I'm joining my lodge parade, and this afternoon, I'm going to New York. When I come back, there are going to be some changes in this store. I'll tell you two what that change is, but I don't want you discussing it amongst yourselves. You're going to have a mistress.
Oh, I'm too young, Mr. Vandergelder.
Death and damnation, not yours, idiot, mine! Hey, hold your tongue until you're spoken to. Truth is, I'm planning on getting married again.
Oh, many congratulations, Mr. Vandergelder. My compliments to the little lady.
That's none of your business. Now go back to the store. But do you have any questions you want to ask?
Mr. Vandergelder.
Yes?
Mr. Vandergelder.
Yes, yes, Cornelius?
Does the chief clerk get one evening off every week?
So that's the way you begin being chief clerk, isn't it? When I was your age, I got up at 5 in the morning and didn't close the store until 10 at night. And then I put on a good hour at the account books. This world's fallen to pieces, and you elegant little ladies lie in bed until 7 in the morning, and at 9 o'clock at night, you rush to close the door of the store so fast, the line of customers bark their noses. No, sir! You'll attend to the store as usual, and on Friday and Saturday nights, you'll close at 10 o'clock. Hear what I say. This is the first time I've been away from the store overnight, and if I hear of any foolishness upon my return, I'll fire you! An evening free. An evening free! You keep on asking for evenings free, you'll have all your days free. Remember that! Oh, and don't forget to put the lid on the sheep dip.
Woohoo, there he goes. What's the matter, Cornelius?
Chief clerk. Promoted from chief clerk to chief clerk.
Don't you like it?
Chief clerk. And if I'm good enough, in 10 years, I can be promoted to chief clerk again. 33 years old and I still don't get an evening free. When am I going to begin to live?
Well, you can begin to live on Sundays, Cornelius.
That's not living. Twice to church and old wolf trap's eyes on the back of my head the whole time. And as for the holidays, what did we do last Christmas? Those canned tomatoes went bad and exploded. We had to clean up the mess all afternoon. Was that living?
Well, no.
Barnaby, how much money have you got? Where you can get at it?
Oh, about $3. Why, Cornelius?
You and I are going to New York.
We can't. Close the store?
Some more rotten tomatoes are going to explode.
Holy cabooses, how do you know?
I know they're rotten. All you have to do is light a match under them. They'll make such a stench, customers can't come into the place for 24 hours. That'll get us an evening free, Barnaby. We're going to New York. We're going to live, too. My, I'll have enough adventures to last me until I'm partnered. So go and get your Sunday clothes on.
What?
Yes, I mean it. We're going to have a good meal. We're going to be in danger. And we're going to get almost arrested, and we're going to spend all our money.
Holy caboose!
And one more thing. We're not coming back to Yonkers until we've kissed a girl.
Kissed a girl? Cornelius, you can't do that. You don't know any girls.
I'm 33 years old. I have to start sometime.
I'm only 17, Cornelius. It isn't so urgent for me.
Now don't start backing down now. If the worst comes to the worst and we get fired from here, we can always join the army.
Did I hear you say you'd be Uncle Wolftrap's partner?
How can I get away from it? He's so old. I mean, if one opens the store at 6 and closes at 9, they get promoted upward whether they like it or not. There's no way of getting away from it. You and I will be Vandergelders.
Oh, no. I may rise a little bit, but I'll never be a Vandergelder.
Look, everybody thinks that when he gets rich, he'll be a different kind of rich person from the rich people he sees around him. Yet later on he finds out there's only one kind of rich person, and he's it.
Oh, but I'll...
No. The best thing would be a person who has all the good meals of a rich person, yet all the good things a poor person has. But that's never been known.
But, Wolftrap, Gertrude. Yes, Cornelius, I'm coming to New York.
Mr. Hackle, is the trunk waiting at the station?
Yes, Mrs. Levi.
Take a last look, Ermengarde.
What?
Take a last look at your girlhood home, dear. I remember when I left my home. I gave a whinny like a young colt and off I went. I'll be with you in a moment.
Oh, Gertrude, do you think I ought to get married this way? A young girl has to be so careful. Huh?
You know, I think I'm going to have this room in blue wallpaper. Yes, in blue.
All clear up here, Cornelius. Holy cabooses! Oh, I can smell it up here.
Get into your Sunday clothes, Barnaby. We're going to New York.
Oh, Mrs. Malloy, I didn't ask you. I wouldn't dream of asking you such a personal question.
But it's what you meant, isn't it? And there's your answer. I shall certainly marry Horace Vandergelder if you should ask me.
I know it's none of my business.
Speak up, Minnie.
But do you...
Minnie, you're a fool. Say it. Do I love him? Of course I don't love him. But I have 2 good reasons for marrying him just the same. Minnie, put something on that hat. It's not ugly enough.
Not ugly enough?
I couldn't sell it. Put a sponge on it.
Why, Mrs. Malloy, you're in such a mood today.
In the first place, I shall marry Mr. Vandergelder to get away from the millinery business. I've hated it from the first day I had anything to do with it. Minnie, I hate hats.
Why? What's the matter with the millinery business?
I can no longer stay being suspected of being a wicked woman. Well, I have nothing to show for it. I just can't stand it.
Why, no one would dream of suspecting you.
Minnie, you're a fool. All milliners are suspected of being wicked women. But half the time, these ladies come into the shop merely to look at me.
Oh?
They enjoy the suspicion, but they aren't certain. If they were certain I was a wicked woman, they wouldn't set foot. Do I go to balls or theaters? No, it would be bad for business. Do I go to operas? No, it would be bad for business. The only men I ever meet are feather merchants. What are those two young men doing out there on that park bench? Take my word for it, Minnie. Either I marry Horace Vandergelder or I break out of this place like a fire engine. I'll go to every theater and ball and opera in New York City.
But Mr. Vandergelder is not...
Speak up, Minnie.
I don't think he's attractive.
I think he is, and it's very important. I think he'd make a good fighter.
Mrs. Malloy!
Take my word for it, Minnie. The best of married life is the fights. The rest is merely so-so.
I won't listen!
Now, Peter Malloy, God rest him, was a fine arguing man. I pitied the woman whose husband would slam the door and walk out of the house at the beginning of an argument. Peter Malloy would stand up and fight for hours on end. He'd even throw things, Minnie, and there's no pleasure to equal that. When I felt tired, I'd start a good blood-warming fight, and it would take 10 years right off my age. Now, Horace Vandergelder would put up a good fight. I know it. I've a mind to marry him.
I think it's just awful the things you're saying today.
Well, I'm enjoying them myself, too.
Mrs. Malloy, those two men out in the street.
What?
Those men. It looks as if they meant to come in here.
Well, now, it's time some men came into this place. I'll give you the younger one, Minnie.
Aren't you terrible?
Let's go into the workroom and make them wait for us a minute.
Oh, but Mrs. Malloy, my work.
Hurry up, be quick now.
Who was here? There were some women here a minute ago. I saw them. That's old Wolf Trap, all right. We'll have to wait here until he passes by.
He's sitting down on the bench. It might be quite a while.
When those ladies come back in, we'll have to make conversation. We'll pretend we're buying a hat. How much money have you got?
40 cents for the dinner, 70 cents for the train, 20 cents to the whale, and $1 I lost. I have 70 cents left.
I have $1.75. I wish I knew how much hats cost.
Is this an adventure, Cornelius?
No, but it may soon be.
Well, I think it is. Cornelius, I think that Mr. Ocean is an adventure now.
What do you know about that? We know all of one person in New York, and there she is.
Even if our adventure came along now, Cornelius, I read you're tired to enjoy it.
Now, Barnaby, don't be thinking that. When you're in an adventure, you'll know one.
Maybe I wouldn't. Let's arrange a signal for you to give me when we're actually in an adventure. For instance, you say pudding, and I'll let us adventure ring.
I wonder where the woman who runs this shop is. What did you say her name was again?
Miss Malloy's Hats for Ladies.
I must think over what I'll say to her when she comes in. Good afternoon, Mrs. Malloy. Wonderful weather we're having. We've been looking everywhere for some beautiful hats.
That's fine, Cornelius.
Good afternoon, Mrs. Malloy. We'll make her think we're very rich. Wonderful weather we're having. You keep one eye on the street at all times. We've been looking everywhere for some beautiful...
Oh, I'm sorry. Have I kept you waiting? Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Here, Cornelius hat.
Here, Barbie Tucker.
Perhaps I can help you. Won't you sit down?
Thank you, we will. You see, Mrs. Malloy, we're looking for hats.
Is that so?
We've looked everywhere. You know what they said? Go to Mrs. Malloy, they said. So we came here. Only place we could go.
Well, now that's very complimentary.
And they were right. Everyone was right.
You wish to choose some hats for a friend?
Yes, exactly.
Yes, exactly.
We were thinking 5 or 6.
5.
Mrs. Malloy, money is no object to us.
Why, Mr. Hackle?
Begging your pardon, Mrs. Malloy. What an interesting street here. Something happening every minute. Passerby and whatnot, Barnaby.
You're from out of town?
Yes, ma'am. Barnaby, keep your eye on the street at all time. You won't see that every day in Yonkers.
No, yes, I will.
Not all of it.
Now, couldn't this friend of yours come in with you someday and choose her hats herself?
Oh, no. It's a surprise for her.
Indeed? That might be a little difficult. It's not entirely customary. Your friend's very interested in the street, Mr. Hackle.
Oh, he has good reason to be.
You said you were from out of town?
Yes, ma'am. We're from Yonkers.
Yonkers?
Yes, Yonkers. Mrs. Malloy, you should visit Yonkers. Hudson River, Palisades Drives. Some say it's the most beautiful town in the world.
Is that so?
If you ever had a free weekend, we'd like to show you Yonkers.
Well, perhaps. Now, about those hats.
Is there, maybe Mr. Malloy would enjoy Yonkers as well?
Oh, I'm a widow, Mr. Hackle.
You are? Well, that's rather unfortunate. Mr. Malloy would have enjoyed Yonkers.
Very likely. Now, this friend of yours, is she light or dark?
Don't think about that. I'm sure any hat you choose for her will be perfectly fine.
Really? Do you like this one?
Barnaby, look.
Oh, yes, that's fine.
That is the most beautiful hat I've ever seen in my entire life.
Your friend is acting very strangely.
Barnaby, stop acting strangely. When the street's quiet and clear, come back and talk to us. Now, what was I saying? Oh, yes, Mrs. Malloy, you should visit Yonkers.
goodness, I have a friend in Yonkers. Perhaps you know him. It's always so foolish to ask in cases like this. It's a Mr. Vandergelder.
What was that you said?
Then you do know him.
Horace Vandergelder?
Yes, that's right.
No. Begging your pardon, Mrs. Malloy. What an attractive shop you have. Everything here is so interesting. Every door, every corner. Where does that door lead to?
That's my workroom.
I see. Everything's so interesting. Every door, every cupboard. Barnaby, make note of the interesting doors and cupboards. Barnaby, also make note of the table. Precious piece of furniture with a low-hanging cloth, I see.
Perhaps your friend might like some of this new Italian straw. Now, Mr. Vandergelder is a very substantial man and very well liked, they tell me.
Yes, charming. Has only one flaw, though. He's a cheapskate. But other than that, charming nonetheless.
And a large circle of friends.
Yes, indeed. 5 or 6.
5.
He comes and calls on you here from time to time, I suppose.
Yes, this summer we'll be wearing ribbons down our backs. As a matter of fact, I'm expecting a call from him this afternoon.
Cornelius, I think...
Now to show you some more hats.
Look out! Begging your pardon, Mrs. Malloy.
Mr. Hackle, come right out of there this instant.
Oh, help us just this once, Mrs. Malloy. I'll explain it all later.
Mr. Hackle!
We're terribly innocent, Miss Malloy.
But really, gentlemen, what are you doing? I can't have this!
Cornelius, pudding?
Pudding!
Irene, my darling child, how are you? Heaven be good to us, how well you look.
But what a surprise! And Mr. Vandergelder in New York? What a pleasure!
Good afternoon, Mrs. Malloy.
Yes, Mr. Vandergelder's in New York. Yonkers lies up there, decimated today. Irene, we thought we'd pay you a very short call. Now you'll tell us if it's inconvenient, won't you?
Inconvenient, Dolly. The idea. Why, it's sweet of you to come.
We waited outside a moment.
Mr. Vandergelder thought he saw 2 customers coming in. 2 men.
Men? Men, Mr. Vandergelder, what will you be saying next?
Then we'll sit down for a minute or 2.
Oh, but before you sit down, there's something I want to show you. I want to show Mr. Vandergelder my workroom, too.
Oh, I've seen the workroom 100 times. I'll stay right here and try on some of these hats.
No, Dolly, you come too. Come along, everybody. Mr. Vandergelder, I want your advice. You don't know how helpless a woman in business is. Oh, I feel I need advice every minute from a fine business head like yours. Now I shut the door.
Maybe we better leave now, Cornelius.
No. Mrs. Malloy would just think we're foolish fellows. I only mean to stretch a moment.
What are we going to do when Mr. Vandergelder comes back?
I'm not quite sure. I like Mrs. Malloy a lot. I wouldn't want her to think poorly of me. Perhaps I'll buy a hat. Give me all the money you have. My, the perfumes in that cupboard tickle my nose. But I like it in there. It's a woman's world. Very different.
I like your mat too. Only like it better if I had a pillow.
Oh, I'll give you one of these ladies' coats. I'll roll it so it won't get mussed. Ladies don't like their coats mussed.
That's fine, Cornelius. I can just lie here and listen to Mr. Vandergelder talk.
This summer we'll be wearing ribbons down our backs.
Cornelius, can I have my shoes off?
Isn't the world full of wonderful things? There we sat all cooped up in Yonkers, and wonderful people like Mrs. Malloy are wandering around New York and we don't know them at all. I don't know if from where you're sitting you can see the way her eye and cheek and forehead come together so perfectly, and the kind of fireworks that shoot from her eyes all the time. I tell you, a fine woman is the greatest work of God. Of course, up there in Yonkers, ladies came into the store all the time and bought this and that, and I said, "Thank you, ma'am," and "That'll be 75 cents, ma'am," and I watched them. But today, I've talked to one, equal to equal, and to the finest one that ever existed, in my opinion. They're so different from men. Everything they say and do makes you feel like laughing all the time. They're awfully mysterious, too. You never can be quite sure what's going on inside their head. I'd wager you could know a woman 100 years and never be perfectly sure whether she liked you or not. Yet at this moment, I am in danger. I'm in danger of losing my job and my future and everything else that people deem as important. But I don't care. Even if I have to dig ditches for the rest of my life, I'll be a ditch digger who once had a wonderful day. Barnaby!
Oh, you woke me up.
Barnaby, we can't go back to Yonkers yet, and you know why?
Why not?
We've had a good meal, we've been in danger, but there's still one more thing we have to do.
Cornelius, you're never going to kiss Miss Malloy.
Maybe.
But you'll scream.
Barnaby, I might as well tell you right now, everyone besides us goes around kissing left and right all the time.
Well, thanks for telling me, Cornelius. I've often wondered.
Just a minute, Irene. I must find my handkerchief. Why, Mr. Hackle, I thought you were up to Yonkers.
I almost always am, Mrs. Levi. Oh, Mrs. Levi, please don't tell on us. We're terribly innocent.
Miss Levi, we're as innocent as can be.
Well, who's that?
Barbie Tucker, just paying a call.
Well, who else is here?
No one, ma'am. Just the two of us.
Old friends of Mrs. Malloy's, is that it?
No, we didn't know her before a few minutes ago. But we like her a lot. I think she's the finest person in the world. I'm ready to tell that to anybody.
And does she think you're the finest person in the world?
Oh, I don't suppose she even notices that I'm alive.
Well, I think that she must notice that you're alive in that cupboard, Mr. Hackle. Well, if I were you, I'd get back into it right away. Somebody could come in any minute.
Can I help you, Dolly?
No, I was just blowing my nose.
Mrs. Malloy, I've got some advice I'd like to give you about your business.
Oh, advice from Mr. Vandergelder. The whole city should hear this.
First of all, the main aim of business is to make a profit.
Is that so?
I never heard it put so clearly before. Did you hear it?
You pay those girls of yours far too much. You pay them almost as much as men. Girls like that enjoy their work. Wages, Mrs. Malloy, are paid to make people do work they don't want to do.
Mr. Vandergelder thinks so ably, and that's just the way his business is run up in Yonkers.
Mrs. Malloy, I'd like for you to come up to Yonkers sometime.
That would be very nice. Oh, thank you. As a matter of fact, I know someone from Yonkers. Someone else.
Who's that?
Someone quite well-to-do, I believe, though a little free and easy in his behavior. Mr. Vandergelder, do you know a Mr. Cornelius Hackle in Yonkers?
Cornelius Hackle? I know him like I know my own boot. He's my chief clerk.
Is that so?
He's worked in my store for 10 years.
Well, I never.
Where would you have met him?
Oh, just one of those chance meetings, I suppose.
Yes, just one of those chance meetings.
What? Chance meetings? Cornelius Hackle has no right to chance meetings. Where was it?
Really, Mr. Vandergelder, it's very unlikely to be questioning me in such a way. I think Mr. Hackle is better known than you think he is.
Well, the truth might as well come out now as later. Mr. Vandergelder, Irene is quite right. Your head clerk is often in New York, goes everywhere, has an army of friends. Everybody knows Cornelius Hackle.
He never comes to New York. He works all day in my store, and at night he sleeps in the storage room.
So you think, but that's not true.
Dolly Gallagher, you're crazy.
Listen to me. You keep your nose so deep in your account books, you don't know what goes on. Yes, by day, Cornelius Hackle is your faithful, trusted clerk, that's true. But by night, well, he just leads a double life, that's all. He's here at the opera and all the great homes. Well, he dines at the Harmonia Gardens restaurant 3 nights a week. The fact is, he's the wittiest, gayest, naughtiest, most delightful man in New York. Why, he's just the famous Cornelius Hackle.
It ain't the same, man. If I ever thought Cornelius Hackle came to New York, I'd fire him.
Who took the horses out of Ginny Lynn's carriage and pulled her through the streets?
Who?
Cornelius Hackle. Who dressed up as a waiter the other night at the Fifth Avenue Hotel and took an oyster and dropped it right down Mrs. No, it's too wicked to tell you.
Oh, yes, Dolly, tell it. Go on.
No, but it was Cornelius Hackle.
It ain't the same man. Where'd he get the money?
But he's very rich.
Rich? I keep his money in my own safe. He has $166.75.
Oh, Mr. Vandergelder, you're killing me. Do come to your senses. He's one of the Hackles.
The Hackles?
They built the Raritan Canal.
Well, then why should he work in my store?
Well, I'll tell you.
I don't want to hear it. I've got a headache. I'm going home. It ain't the same man. He works all day in my store, and you can't get away from the facts. Why, I just made him my chief clerk.
If you had any sense at all, you'd make him partner. Now, Irene, I can see that you were just as taken with him as everyone else is.
Why, I only met him once, very hastily.
But I can see that you were taken with him. Now, don't you be thinking of marrying him.
Oh, Dolly, what are you saying?
Maybe it'd be fine, but think it over carefully. He breaks hearts like hickory nuts.
Who?
Cornelius Hackle.
Mrs. Malloy, how often has he called on you?
Really, Mr. Vandergelder, I'm telling the truth. I've only met him once in my life. Mrs. Levi's been exaggerating, so I don't know where to look.
Excuse me, Mrs. Malloy. I must get together that order for Mrs. Parkinson.
Yes, Minnie.
I'd like to send it off by the air girl. Oh, I almost forgot.
Oh, Minnie, I'll do that.
Mrs. Malloy, help this man there!
You want that?
There's a man in there? Whoever you are, come out of there!
Nonsense. There's no man in there. See? Miss Bay's nurse has just been playing tricks on her. Come now, let's sit down again. What were you saying, Mr. Vandergelder? Well now. God bless you.
Yes, there is a man in there. I'll explain it to you another time. Thank you very much for coming to see me.
You're protecting a man in there?
There's a very simple explanation, but for the present, good afternoon.
Lord, the room's crawling with men. I'll never get over it.
The world's going crazy. I can't believe my own eyes.
Come, Mr. Vandergelder. Ernestina Simple is waiting for us.
Mrs. Malloy, I shan't call on you again. And vice versa.
Irene, when I think of all the interesting things you have in this room, make the most of it, dear. Goodbye. Goodbye, Mr. Hackle.
So that was one of your practical jokes, Mr. Hackle.
No, Mrs. Malloy.
Come out from that Barnaby Tucker, you troublemaker. Minnie, there's nothing to be afraid of. I know all about these gentlemen. You think because you're rich you can make up for all the harm you do, is that it?
No.
Minnie, this is the famous Cornelius Hackle who goes around New York tying people in the knots. And that's Barnaby Tucker, another troublemaker.
How do you do?
Minnie, choose yourself any hat and coat in the store. We're going out to dinner.
Pardon?
If this Mr. Hackle is so rich and gay and charming, he's going to be rich and gay and charming to us. He dines 3 times a week at Harmonia Gardens restaurant, does he? Well, he's taking us there now.
Mrs. Malloy, are you sure it's safe?
Minnie, hold your tongue. We're in a position to put these men into jail if they so much as squeak.
Jail, Mrs. Malloy?
Jail?
Jail, Mr. Hackle. Officer Kelly does everything I tell him to do. Minnie, you and I have been respectable for years, and now we're in disgrace. We might as well make the most of it. Come into the workroom with me. I know some ways we can perk up our appearance.
Mrs. Malloy, I hear there's an awfully good restaurant at the railway station.
Railway station? Railway station? Certainly not. No, sir. You're going to give us a good dinner in the heart of the fashionable world. Go on in, Minnie. Don't you boys forget that you've made us lose our reputations. And now the fashionable world is the only place we can eat.
She's angry as for this. I think we better run away now.
No, Barnaby. I'm going to go through with this if it kills me. You see, for a woman like that, a man can consent to go back to Yonkers and be a success.
All I know is that no woman's ever going to make a success out of me.
Well, jail or no jail, we're going to take those ladies to dinner. So grit your teeth.
Gentlemen, the cabs are at the corner, so forward march.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, Mrs. Malloy, is it far to the restaurant? Couldn't we walk?
Minnie, take off your things. We're not going.
Mrs. Malloy.
I suppose you think we're not fashionable enough for you, is that it?
No, not at all.
Well, I'm not very happy to have met you. Good night, gentlemen.
Mrs. Malloy, we want you to come with us more than anything in the world.
No, you don't. Look at you. Look at the pair of them, Minnie, scowling, both of them.
Please, Mrs. Malloy.
Then smile. Go on, smile. No, that's not enough. Minnie, you come with me and we'll get our own supper.
Smile, Barnaby, you lout!
Smiling. I just can't smile when he's struggling with this.
Then you have to do something. Show some interest. Do something lively. Sing.
We can't sing, really, we can't.
We're wasting our time, Minnie. They don't want us.
Mrs. Malloy, all we know are sad songs.
That doesn't matter. If you want us to come out with you, you've got to sing something.
I've been working on the railroad all the livelong day. I've been working on the railroad just to pass the time away.
All right, we'll come. You boys go ahead.
Chugga chugga.
Minnie,
Why, Mrs. Malloy, are you crying?
Minnie, the world is full of wonderful things. Watch me, dear, and tell me if my petticoat's silly.
With Brian Holder, who plans to run for Congress as an independent. Why do you plan to run for Congress as independent, Brian?
Sure, I'm doing this. There are certain issues that I feel that these candidates cannot discuss. I haven't heard any of them really take to task the military-industrial complex, the out-of-control spying that the NSA is doing. We have a war on some drug users, and we've got 3 million people locked in federal prisons, and it's sort of sad that all this money is being spent on these campaigns, and we have people out of work, we have people that don't have health insurance, and the country has a lot of problems. I'm doing this hopefully to inspire other people to get involved in government and run as candidates, because I feel that it's our civic duty to be involved in this political process.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Now listen, I don't want you to make any mistakes. I want a table for 3.
For 3.
There'll be 2 ladies and myself.
It's a bad combination, Mr. Vandergilder. You'll regret it.
And I want a chicken.
A chicken? You'll regret it.
Hold your tongue. Write that down. Chicken.
Yes, sir. Chicken Asta hazy, chicken Anta style, chicken a la creme.
A chicken like everybody else has it. And with that chicken, I want a bottle of wine.
Moselle, Chablis, Beaujolais.
He doesn't understand English, Mr. Vandergilder. You'd better speak louder.
W-I-N-E.
Fine.
A vine. And we'll have that table removed. We'll eat at this table alone.
Yes, sir.
There's some people coming in now, Mr. Vandergilder.
Oh, it's my niece and that artist. Hey, what are they doing here?
Mr. Vandergilder, remember Napoleon said.
And there's Mrs. Levi, too. Wait till I get my hands on them.
Be a Napoleon, Mr. Vandergilder. Observe the enemy. Outsmart them, Mr. Vandergilder.
Enjoy yourself. Enjoy yourself. Now, Ermengarde, dear, there's nothing wicked about eating in a restaurant. There's nothing wicked even about being in New York. Clergymen just make up those things to fill out their sermons.
Oh, but I don't want to eat in a public restaurant like this.
That's all right, dear. There are some lovely private rooms upstairs just meant for shy, timid girls like us.
Stack, I want to write a note.
Oh, yes, excuse me.
Don't call that cabman in here. I want to talk to him.
No one asks advice of a cabman, Mr. Vandergilder. They see so much life that they have no ideas left.
Just do as I tell you.
Yes, sir. Advice of a cabman.
My dear Miss Van Heusen. Everybody's dear in a letter nowadays. It makes you want to give up on writing them. My dear Miss Van Heusen. This is Ermengarde and that rascal Ambrose Kemper. See to it that they stay in your house until I arrive.
This Vandergilder character. What's he want with me anyway?
I want to talk to you.
I already got a fare. I'm waiting for them now.
I know, but do you want to earn $5?
What?
I said, do you want to earn $5?
I don't know. I never tried.
When that party of yours returns, take them to this address. Never mind what they say, just take them to this address. Get them in the house and give this letter to the lady of the house. I'll be there in an hour, so I'll pay you then.
I can't make people go into a house if they don't want to.
For $10 you can.
Even for $10, I can't do it alone.
This guy'll help you out.
Now I'm pushing people into houses.
That's the address. Miss Flora Van Heusen, 8 Jackson Street.
Even if I get them in the door, I can't be sure they'll stay.
For $15 you can.
Murder begins at $25.
Hold your tongue! The lady of the house will help you. All you have to do is sit in the hall and see that the man does not run off with the girl.
If they call the police, I can't do nothing.
It's perfectly honest business, perfectly honest. The young lady's my niece.
Ha!
The young lady is my niece.
Yes, I'll bet she is.
She's trying to run off with a good-for-nothing, and we're preventing it.
Oh, I know them, Mr. Vandergilder. They'll win in the end. Rivers don't run uphill.
What did I tell you, Mr. Vandergilder? Advice of a cabman.
Stack! See that this table's reserved for 3, and see that nobody else eats here. Then go and join the cabman on the box.
Yes, sir.
Who's your friend?
Friend? That's not a friend. That's a boss I'm trying out for a few days.
You won't like him.
I can see your business for yourself because you talk about liking bosses. No one's liked a boss since business began.
What?
No, sir. That's what all bosses think. Hey, let's go in the kitchen and get some whiskey. I can't push people in the house when I'm sober.
You know, I had a boss once. He watched me from 8 in the morning till 6 at night. Just sat there and watched me. Even my own mother didn't think I was as interesting as all that.
See, here's the place I meant. Isn't it fine? When you take off your things, we'll be here for hours.
Mrs. Malloy, are you sure you'll like it here? I think I feel a draft.
Indeed, I do like it. It's private and it's elegant. Now we're all going to forget our troubles and call each other by our first names. Cornelius, call the waiter.
Waiter! Oh, I must have caught a cold on that ride over. I can't make a sound.
I don't believe you. Barnaby, you call him.
Waiter, waiter!
I never thought I'd be in such a place in my whole life. Mrs. Malloy, is this what they call a cafe?
Yes, Minnie, this is a cafe. Cornelius, Mrs. Levi gave us to understand that every waiter in New York knew you.
They will.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Ah, Fritz, how are you, my friend?
I'm Rudolph.
Rudolph! Right. Well, Rudolph, these ladies would like a little something to eat, if you know what I mean. Only if you can find the time. We know how busy you are.
Cornelius, there's no need to be so familiar with the waiter.
Oh, yes, there is.
Minnie, what do you want to eat?
Just anything, Irene.
No, speak up, Minnie. What do you want?
No, really, I have no appetite at all. Well, I guess I'll have some sardines on toast and a glass of milk.
Great grindstones, what a sensible girl. Barnaby, shake Minnie's hands. Most sensible girl in the world. Rudolph, bring us gentlemen 2 glasses of beer, a loaf of bread, and some cheese.
I never heard of such nonsense. Cornelius, we've come here for a good dinner and a good time. Minnie, have you ever eaten pheasant?
Pheasant? No.
Rudolph, have you any pheasant?
Yes, Mom. Just from New Jersey today.
Even the pheasants are leaving New Jersey. Now, Rudolph, write this down. Mock turtle soup.
Mock turtle soup.
Pheasant.
Pheasant.
Mashed chestnuts.
Mashed chestnuts.
Green salad.
Green salad.
And some nice red wine.
And some nice red wine.
All right, Barnaby, you watch me. Rudolph, write this down. Neapolitan ice cream, hothouse peaches, champagne.
Champagne?
And a German band. Have you got a German band?
No, Cornelius, I won't let you be extravagant. Champagne, but no band. Now, Rudolph, be quick about this. We're hungry.
Yes, Mom.
Well, Minnie, come upstairs with me so we can freshen up. Oh, goody.
Cornelius, they send the army in jail. Room horses all the time.
Oh, don't worry about that. By the time we get out of prison, we can move right over to the old men's home.
Waiter, what's that? What's that you have?
It's champagne, ma'am.
Cornelius, it's our champagne.
No, it's for his honor, the mayor of New York, and he's very impatient.
Shame on him. The mayor of New York has more important things to be impatient about.
But ma'am, he'll kill me.
Well, have a glass first and die happy.
But he'll kill me.
I go to a public restaurant for the first time in 10 years, and all the waiters burst into tears. He'll kill me. Barnaby, make a toast.
Oh, golly. To all ladies in the world, I can show more of them, and I know them better.
The ladies.
That's very sweet and very refined. Minnie, for that, I'm going to give Barnaby a kiss. Ah! I'm old enough to be his mother, and a dear young mother I would have been too. Barnaby, this is for you from all the young ladies in the world.
Cornelius, pudding!
Look at Barnaby. He's not strong enough for a kiss. His head can't stand it. Minnie, I'm enjoying myself. To think that this goes on in hundreds of places every night while I sit at home darning my stockings. Cornelius, dance with me.
Irene, the Hackles don't dance. We're Presbyterian.
Minnie, you dance with me. Hi, Minnie, you dance beautifully. You thought I'd be cross and so you didn't ask me to dance. Cornelius, Jenny, Lynn, and all those other ladies. Do you see them all the time?
Irene, I put them right out my mind. I'm interested in...
Rudolph, what are you doing?
A table's been reserved here. Special orders.
Stop right where you are. That party can eat inside. This veranda's ours.
This veranda's open to anybody who wants it. Ah, there comes the man who brought the order.
Take your table away from here. We got here first. Cornelius, throw him out.
Ma'am, my boss reserved this room at 4 o'clock this afternoon. He just wants to go eat in the restaurant. My boss said it was very important he have a table alone.
No, sir. We got here first and we're going to stay here alone, too. Cornelius, knock him down.
Knock him down?
I'm sorry, but this room can't be reserved for anybody else. If you want it alone, you must go upstairs. I'm sorry, but that's the rule.
We're having a nice dinner and we're going to stay here. Cornelius, knock him down.
Wait till you see my boss.
I tell you what we'll do. We'll put the screens up between the tables.
I won't eat behind a screen. I won't. Minnie, make a noise. We're not animals in the next And there's a fight. I feel 10 years younger. No screen. No screen.
Now you
No
learn
screen.
something? Here comes my boss now.
Where? I'll knock him down too.
Yes, it is.
Listen, everybody. I think the screen's a good idea. Have you any more screens, Rudolph? We could do with 3 or 4.
Quiet down, Cornelius, and stop changing your mind. Hurry up, Rudolph. soup.
Very good, ma'am. Stack, what's the meaning of this? I told you I wanted a table alone. What's this?
Mr. Vandergilder, I did what I could. Mr. Vandergilder, you wouldn't believe what wild savages the people of New York are. There's a woman over there, Mr. Vandergilder. Civilization hasn't touched her.
Everything's wrong. You can't even manage a thing like this. Help me off with my coat. Don't kill me! Ah!
Speak up, I can't hear you.
Oh, my voice. Barnaby, how's your throat? Can't make a sound.
Right, bring our heads together and we'll listen.
Who are those people over there?
Some city sparks and the girls, Mr. Vandergilder.
Has that couple come down from upstairs yet? I hope they haven't gone off without your noticing them.
No, sir. Myself and the cabman have kept our eyes on everything.
You go out and join the cabman. I'll sit here and wait for my guests.
Yes, sir. What's that? A purse? Did you drop it, Mr. Vandergilder?
No, don't bother me. Just do as I tell you.
A purse. That fellow there must have let it fall during the misunderstanding about the screen. No, I won't look inside. $20 bills? Dozens of them? I'll go over there and give it to him. You're surprised. You're surprised to see me getting arrested money so quickly, eh? I'll explain it to you. There's a time in my life my chief interest was picking up money that didn't belong to me. A man works all his life and leaves $1 million to his widow. She sits in hotels and eats great meals and plays cards all afternoon with 10 diamonds on her fingers. Calling the robbers. Or a man leaves it to his son, who stands leaning against bars all night, boring a bartender. Calling the robbers. There are some people who say you shouldn't have any vices at all. Nah. Choose one vice. I chose whiskey. And then I discovered an important rule that I'm going to pass on to you. Never support two vices at the same time. So now you see why I'm getting rid of this money so quickly. I want to keep my mind free to do the credit to whiskey that deserves. And my last words to you, ladies and gentlemen, is this. One vice at a time. Excuse me, can I speak to you for a minute?
You certainly can. We'd all like to apologize for that little incident with the screen, little misunderstanding.
Yes, I'm very sorry.
Oh, it's nothing.
What's your name, sir?
Stack, sir. Malachi Stack. If you ladies will excuse me, I'd like to speak to you for a minute. Come here, boy. Come here. Have you lost something?
Mr. Stack, in this one day, I've lost everything.
There it is. Don't mention it.
Why, Mr. Stack? You know what this is? It's a miracle.
It's nothing. Don't mention it.
Barnaby, come here. Barnaby, I want you to shake hands with Mr. Stack. Mr. Stack just found the purse I lost, Barnaby. You know, the purse full of money.
Oh, you're a wonderful man, Mr. Stack. It's nothing.
You're a good man to know, Mr. Stack. Sure am glad I went to church all those years. Where do you work?
I work for Mr. Vandergilder in Yonkers.
You do? Well, Mr. Stack, I know you don't need it, but can I give you something for the good work?
Oh, it's nothing.
Here, take that.
No, it's all right.
Oh, and that.
I'd better be going.
Oh, and that.
No, I might get to like them.
Irene, I feel a whole lot better about things. In fact, I feel so much better, I think I'm going to tell the truth.
I've forgotten that, Minnie. Men get drunk so differently than ladies. All right, what is the truth?
If I tell the truth, will you let me put my arm around your waist?
Hold your tongue, Minnie. All right, you can put your arm around my waist, just to show that it can be done in a gentlemanly way. But I might as well warn you, a corset is a corset.
You're a wonderful person, Mrs. Malloy.
Thank you. All right, that's enough. What is the truth?
I'm not as rich as Mrs. Levi said I am.
Not rich?
And I'm not like she said I am, bad. And I almost never come to New York. And you might as well know, right at this very moment, Mr. Vandergelder's sitting on the other side of that screen.
Well, now, he's not going to spoil any party of mine. Let's forget all about Mr. Vandergelder and have some more champagne.
Good evening, Mr. Vandergelder.
Where's Miss Simple?
Mr. Vandergelder, I'll never trust a woman again as long as I live.
Well, what is it?
She ran away this afternoon and got married.
She did?
Married, Mr. Vandergelder, to a young boy of 40.
She did?
Oh, I'm as disappointed as you are. I couldn't eat a thing. What have you ordered?
I ordered what you told me to. Chicken.
I don't think I could face a chicken. Oh, waiter, how do you do? What's your name?
August, ma'am.
August, this is Mr. Vandergelder of Yonkers. Yonkers' most influential citizen, in fact. I want you to see that he's served with the best you have and served promptly. And there'll only be 2 of us. Mr. Vandergelder's been through some trying experiences today. Men hidden all over Mrs. Malloy's workshop like Indians in ambush.
You don't have to tell him everything about me.
Mr. Vandergelder, if you're thinking of getting married, you might as well learn right now you have to let women be women. Now, August, we want excellent service.
Yes, ma'am.
You've managed things very poorly. When I plan something, it takes place. Where are you going?
Oh, I'd just like to see who's on the other side of that screen.
Oh, good evening, Mrs. Levi.
Well, who was it?
Oh, just some city sparks entertaining their girls, I guess.
Always wanting to know everything. Always curious about everything. Anybody who lived with you would get as nervous as a cat.
What? What's that you're saying?
I said anybody who lived with you would get as nervous.
Horace Vandergelder, get such ideas right out of your head. I'm surprised you even mentioned such a thing. Understand once and for all that I have no intention of marrying you.
I didn't mean that.
You've been hinting around at such things for some time now, but from now on, get such ideas right out of your head.
Stop saying that. That's not what I've meant at all.
I hope not. I should hope not. Horace Vandergelder, you go your way and I'll go mine. I'm not some Irene Malloy whose head can be turned by a pot of geraniums. Why the idea of you even suggesting such a thing?
Mrs. Levi, you misunderstood me.
I certainly hope I did. If I had any intention of marrying again, it would be to a far more pleasant man than you. Why, I'd marry that handsome Cornelius Hackle before I'd marry you. However, let's talk of something else. Here's August with our food. I'll serve it, August.
Yes, ma'am.
Here's some white meat for you and some giblets, very tender and very good for you. No, Horace, as I said before, you go your way and I'll go mine.
Stop saying that.
I won't say another word. Take some more of that wine. It's good. Now, Horace, since you brought the matter up, there's one more thing I think I ought to say.
I haven't brought the matter up at all.
Sit down. We'll have forgotten all about it in a moment, but sit down. It's true, I'm a woman who likes to know everything that's going on, who likes to manage things. You're right about that. But I wouldn't like to manage anything as disorderly as your household, as out of control, as untidy. You'll have to do that yourself. God help you.
It's not out of control.
Very well, let's not say another word about it. No, Horace, a complaining, quarrelsome, friendless soul like you is no sort of companion for me. You go your way and I'll go mine.
Stop saying that.
I won't say another word.
Besides, I'm not those things that you said I am.
What? Well, I guess you're friendless, aren't you? Ermengarde told me this morning you'd even quarreled with your barber. A man who's held a razor to your throat for the last 20 years. Seems to me that's sinking pretty low.
Well, we had a little discussion and I said, but my clerks, they respect me.
They respect you? Cornelius Hackle and that Barnaby? Behind your back, they call you Wolf Trap.
They don't.
No, Horace. It seems to me as though I were the last person in the world that liked you, and even I'm just so-so. No, for the rest of my life, I intend to enjoy myself. You can find some housekeeper who can prepare 3 meals for $1 a day. It can be done if you like cold baked beans. You'll spend your last days listening at keyholes for fear someone's cheating you.
Dolly, you're a damned exasperating woman.
There! You see, that's the difference between us. I'd be nagging you all day to get some spirit into you. You could be a perfectly charming, witty, amiable man if you wanted to.
I don't want to be charming!
But look at you now, you can't hide it.
Listening at keyholes? Dolly, you have no right to say such things to me.
At your age, you ought to enjoy hearing the honest truth. You and I are too old to be talking nonsense to one another.
My age, you're always talking about my age.
I don't know what your age is, but I know with bad food and bad temper, you'll double it in 6 months. Let's talk of something else. But before we leave the subject, there's one more thing I am going to say.
Don't!
Sometimes, just sometimes, I think I'd be tempted to marry you out of sheer pity. And if the confusion in your house gets any worse, I may have to.
I haven't asked you to marry me.
Well, please don't.
And my house is not in confusion.
What? With your niece upstairs in the restaurant right now?
I've handled that better than you know.
And your clerks skipping around New York behind your back?
They're in Yonkers where they always are.
Nonsense.
What do you mean nonsense?
Cornelius Hackle's on the other side of that screen right this minute.
It ain't the same, man.
All right, go ahead. Knock it over, push it down, go and see.
I don't believe it.
All right, eat your chicken. No, Horace, if your affairs went from bad to worse and you actually became miserable, I may feel it was my duty to come up to Yonkers and be of some assistance to you. After all, I was your wife's oldest friend.
I don't understand how you got any such notion into your head. Now understand once and for all, I have no intention of marrying anybody. Now I'm tired and I don't want to talk.
I won't say another word either.
Irene, I think we better go. Here, you take this and pay the restaurant bill. Don't worry, it's not mine.
No, I'll tell you what we'll do. You boys put on our hats and coats, and if he comes sniffing over here, he'll think you're girls.
What, those things?
Yes, come on.
I've had a bad day. I'm going to Flora Van Heusen's. So here's the money to pay for the meal. Here's the money to pay for the meal. Here's the... I've lost my purse!
Impossible. I can't imagine you without your purse.
Someone must have stolen it. It's not in my coat. Did I leave it in the cab? Oh, I've never been here before. They don't know who I am. Stop eating that. I can't pay for it.
Horace, sit down and calm yourself. I'll be able to find some money.
Dolly Gallagher, I gave you $25 this morning.
I haven't a cent. I gave it to my lawyer. We can borrow it from Ambrose Kemper upstairs.
I wouldn't take it.
Cornelius Hackle will lend it to us.
He's in Yonkers!
Cornelius, is that Mr. Vanderbilt's purse?
I didn't know it until now. I thought it was just money wandering around that didn't belong to anyone.
Goodness, that's what politicians do.
Waiter! Waiter!
I really don't hardly make a lovely girl. He just got to say lovely.
There's that gypsy again. Cornelius, why should we not refuse me? He'll recognize you.
Argues the easiest thing in the world.
Listen to that music. Horace, you danced with me at your wedding and I danced with you at mine. Do you remember?
No. Yes.
Horace, you were a good dancer then. Don't confess to me that you're too old to dance.
I'm not too old. I just don't want to dance.
Listen to that music.
You're fired! And where's that idiot Barnaby Tucker? You're fired!
You're fired!
You're fired!
Mr. Vandergelder, there's your life. Without niece, without clerks, without bride, without purse. Will you marry me now?
No!
No, damn!
Up to the door.
You imagined it. Everything like that. Disappointment, illusion. What becomes of them? Nothing. The story of my life.
Pray God nothing's happened to the dear girl. Is it a long journey from Yonkers?
No, but long enough for 1,000 terrible things to happen.
Well, we've been waiting all day. Don't you think we have to call the police about it?
The police? If it's God's will, the police can prevent it. Oh, in 3 days, in a month, in a year, we'll know what's happened. And if anything truly terrible has happened to Ermengarde, it'll be a lesson to him. That's what it'll be.
To who?
To that cruel uncle of hers, of course. To Horace Vandergelder. And to all who try to interfere with young love. Young lovers have enough to contend with as it is. And who should know that better than I? No one. The story of my life. There. Now I hear a cab. Quick!
No, ma'am, I don't see anything.
What did I tell you? Everything's imagination, illusion.
But surely if they'd changed their plans, Mr. Vandergelder would have sent you a message.
Oh, I know what's happened. That poor girl probably thought she was going to another prison, to another tyrant. If only she had known that I was her friend, and indeed a friend to all young lovers, she'd be here by now. Oh, yes, she would. Her life shall not be crossed with disappointments and sufferings as... Cook, a minute ago my smelling salts were right here, and now they completely disappeared.
Here they are, ma'am, right there in your hand.
Oh, goodness, how did they get there? I shan't inquire. Stranger things have happened.
I suppose Mr. Vandergelder was sending her down with someone?
Two can go astray as easily as... Achoo!
God bless you. Now here's a carriage stopping.
Well, go and answer the door, cook. It's probably... Achoo! God bless you. Now, it's almost as though I thought I heard voices.
I don't want to go in! This is a free country, I tell you!
Forward march!
In you go, we have orders. You can't make a man go where he doesn't want to go!
Beg your pardon, ma'am. Are you Miss Van Heusen?
Yes, I am, unfortunately. What's all this noise about?
There are two people here that Mr. Vandergelder must be brought to this house and kept here until he comes. Oh, and here's his letter to you.
No one's to tell me who I have to keep in my house if they don't want to stay.
That's right, ma'am. Everybody's always talking about people breaking into houses, ma'am, but there are more people who want to break out of houses. That's what I always say. Hey, bring him in, Fred.
Ma'am, there's been a mistake. This young got into a cab, asked me to be driven to the station. These men brought us to this house and forced us to come inside.
Miss Van Heusen?
Everybody's asking me if I'm Miss Van Heusen. I think that's a matter I can decide for myself. Now, will you all be quiet with this letter? Ermengarde and that rascal Ambrose Kemper. Now I know who you two are, anyway. They are trying to run away. The story of my life. Well, Mr. Kemper, you have nothing to fear. Who are you?
I'm Fred. I stay here until the old man comes. Just for $15.
That's right, Miss Van Heusen, and we must stay here to see that you don't escape.
My dear child, take off your things. We'll all get some coffee. You two go out and wait in the hall. I'll have some coffee. Good? Take them.
Ma'am, we're not the people you're expecting, and there's no reason to...
Mr. Kemper, I'm not the tyrant you think I am. You don't have to be afraid. I know you're trying to run away with this darling, innocent girl. All my life I have suffered from the interference of others, but you shall not suffer as I did. So put yourselves entirely into my hands. Ermengarde, where's your luggage?
It's...
Oh, I'll find it in the morning. It's been mislaid.
Mislaid? How like life. Well, Ermengarde, you shall put on some of my clothes.
Oh no, I wouldn't be happy, really.
Sing little darling. Cook?
Yes, ma'am.
Go into the kitchen and put the gingerbread in the oven and get the coffee ready.
Yes, ma'am.
While I go and draw Ermengarde a good hot bath.
Oh, Miss Van Heusen.
Believe me, Ermengarde, your troubles are at an end. You two will be married tomorrow. Ermengarde, you look just as I did at your age. And your struggles have been as mine. While you're bathing, I'll come and tell you the story of my life.
I almost catch cold.
You won't catch cold. I'll slap you all over. I'll be back in a minute.
Barnaby, do you think we could jump out this window?
Yes, we can kill ourselves.
Well, we'll just have to wait and watch for something to happen. The situation's desperate.
The gang getting desperate about 5:30. It's being worse ever since. That's to get back and get slapped all over.
Ermengarde, you still got those wet things on. Your bath's nearly ready. Mr. Kemper, come to the kitchen and put your feet in the oven. What's that? It's the doorbell. I expect it's your uncle.
There's the doorbell. Oh, it's another man and a girl in a cab.
Well, don't let them in, Cook. Now you two come with me.
I don't want to take a bath. I took one on Saturday.
Hello, I'm Ermengarde, and this is Ambrose Kemper.
No, that's impossible. Come in anyway.
But I'm Mr. Vandergelder's niece. I'm Ermengarde.
Beg your pardon, miss, but you can't be Miss Ermengarde.
But here I am, and that's my luggage.
How do you do? I'll tell Miss Van Heusen who you think you are. She won't like it.
You'll be all right now, Ermengarde. I'd better be going before she sees me.
You must stay. I feel so strange here.
I know, but Mr. Vandergirder will be here any minute.
Ambrose, you can't go.
Ambrose, you can't go!
You can't leave me in this crazy house with all these drunken men in the hole. Ambrose, let's say you're someone else. Someone my uncle sent down to take care of me. Let's say you're Cornelius Hackle.
Who's Cornelius Hackle?
You know, he's chief clerk in Uncle's store.
I don't want to be Cornelius Hackle. No. Come away with me now. I'll take you to my friend's house, or I'll take you to Miss Levi's house.
Why, it was Mrs. Levi who threw us right at Uncle Horace's face. Oh, I wish I were back at Yonkers where nothing ever happens.
What's all this noise I hear? I thought I told you to wait in the hall. Now then, who do you say you are?
Aunt Flora, don't you remember me? I'm Ermengarde.
And you're Horace Vandergelder's niece?
Yes, I am.
But he has just sent me another niece named Ermengarde.
But he doesn't.
And who is this?
This is Cornelius Hackle, Aunt Flora.
Never heard of him.
He's chief clerk in Uncle's store.
Never heard of him. The other Ermengarde came with the man she's in love with, and that proves it. She came with Mr. Ambrose Kemper.
Ambrose Kemper?
Yes, Mr. Hackle and Mr. Ambrose Kemper. Dear child, what is your trouble?
Oh dear, nobody's anybody anymore.
Oh, you're in love with this man?
Yes, I am.
I could see it. And are people trying to separate you?
Yes, they are.
I could see it. Who? Horace Vandergelder?
Yes.
Mr. Hackle, think of me as your friend. Now then, we'll all go into the kitchen and get warm. We can decide later who everybody is. Here, would you like a good hot bath?
Yes, I would.
Well, when Ermengarde comes out, you can go in.
Miss Van Houston.
Why, Cornelius Hackle?
No. I'll explain everything later.
Mr. Kemper, Mr. Kemper. This is Cornelius Hackle. Mr. Hackle. Perhaps you two know each other.
No. Miss Van Houston, I know for a fact that man is not Ambrose Kemper.
And he's not Cornelius Hackle.
My dear young man, what does it matter what your names are? The important thing is that you are you. You're alive and living, aren't you, Mr. Hackle?
Ouch, Miss Van Houston.
This dear child imagines she is Horace Vandergelder's niece, Ermengarde.
But I am.
The important thing is that you're all in love. Everything else is illusion.
Ouch, Miss Van Houston.
Everybody's asking me if I'm Miss Van Houston. Now then, you two gentlemen have a nice chat, while this dear child has a good hot bath.
There's the doorbell again. Oh, it's a cabin, 3 ladies. I never saw such a night.
Now then, gentlemen, you two can rest easy. I'll see that Horace Vandergelder lets his nieces marry you both.
Flora, how are you?
I have no idea. Horace Vandergelder sent them to me.
Well, I brought you 2 girls in much the same condition. Otherwise, they're the finest girls in the world. I want you to meet Irene Malloy.
Delighted to know you.
And this is Minnie Fay. Oh, I see you 2 gentlemen are here too. I was about to look for you somewhere here, Mr. Hackle.
No, Mrs. Levi, I'm ready to face anything at this point.
Mr. Vandergelder will be here in a minute. He's downstairs trying to pay for a cab without any money.
Oh, I'll help him.
Oh, yes. Will you, dear? You had to pay the restaurant bills. You have hundreds of dollars in there, it seems.
But this is his own purse he lost. I can't give it back to him without receiving.
I'll give it back to him. Here, you help him with this now.
Oh, Mr. Vandergelder, I'll take care of that.
Hello, Mr. Vandergelder. How are you?
15 smackaroos, Mr. Vandergelder.
You're fired! You're fired! So I caught up with you at last. I never want to see you again. And you're fired! The both of you, get out of here now!
Now then, you stop ordering people out of my house. You can shout and carry on in Yonkers, but when you're in my house, behave yourself.
Mr. Vandergelder, I can explain everything.
There aren't going to be any explanations. Horace, take your hat off and stop scowling at Mr. Kemper and forgive him.
That's not Mr. Kemper. That's a dishonest rogue named Cornelius Hackle.
You're crazy. That's Cornelius Hackle.
I am my chief clerk.
I don't care what his name is. You shake hands with both of them, or out you go.
Shake hands with these fools and scoundrels?
Mr. Vandergelder, you've had a hard day. You don't want to go out in the rain now. Just for form's sake, shake hands with them. You can go back to quarreling again tomorrow.
There! Don't regard that as a handshake. I never want to see you again!
Push.
Miss Nicholson.
Yes, dear.
Do I smell coffee?
Yes, dear.
Can I have some good and black?
Come along then, everybody. We'll all go into the kitchen and get some coffee. Horace, you'll be interested to know there are 2 urban guards in there.
No, I haven't seen a party like this since... I haven't seen a party like this!
Ephraim Levi, I'm going to get married again. Ephraim, I'm going to marry Horace Vandergilder for his money. Oh, it won't be a marriage in the sense that we had one, but I'll surely make him happy. And Ephraim, I'm tired. I'm tired of living from hand to mouth, and I'm asking your permission, Ephraim. Will you give me away? Horace Vandergilder's never tired of saying that most of the people in the world are fools, and in a way he's right, isn't he? Himself, Irene, Cornelius, myself. But there comes a moment in every person's life when they must decide whether or not they'll live among human beings. A fool among fools or a fool alone. As for me, I've decided to live among them. After my husband died, I retired into myself. Yes, in the evenings I'd put out the cat and lock the door and make myself a little rum toddy. And before I went to bed, I'd say a little prayer thanking God that I was independent, that no one else's life was mixed up with mine. And then one night, after 2 years of this, an oak leaf fell out of my Bible. I'd placed it there on the night my husband asked me to marry him. A perfectly good oak leaf, but without color and without life. And suddenly, I realized that I had not shed one tear, nor had I been for one moment outrageously happy. I realized that I was like that oak leaf, and on that night, I decided to rejoin the human race. You and I have known lots of people, like Horace Vandergelder, like myself for a long time, who've decided to have nothing to do with human beings. Yes, they walk among them, they talk to them, they even get married to them, but at heart, they've decided to have nothing to do with the human race. If you accept human beings and are willing to live among them, you acknowledge that every man has a right to his own mistakes. Yes, we're all fools and we're all in danger of creating a great deal of havoc in the world with our folly, but the one way to keep us from harm is to fill our lives with the 4 or 5 pleasures which are our right in the world. And that takes a little money. Not much, but a little. Money, pardon my expression, money is like manure. It's not worth a thing unless it's spread around encouraging young things to grow. Anyway, that's the opinion of the second Mrs. Horace Vandergelder.
Miss Van Heusen asked me to bring you this.
Thank you, Bo. What's been going on in the kitchen?
A lot of foolishness. Everybody's fallen in love with everybody. I forgave them, Ermengarde and that artist.
I knew you would. 2?
Thank you. I also made Cornelius happy, my partner.
You won't regret it.
Dolly, you said some mighty unpleasant things to me in that restaurant. All that about my house and, well, everything.
Let's not say another word about it.
You have a lot of faults, you know.
I know what you mean.
You're bossy, you're scheming, you're inquisitive, but you're
Go on.
You're a wonderful woman. Dolly, marry me.
Horace, stop right there.
I know I've been a fool about Mrs. Malloy and that other woman, but forgive me and marry me.
I don't dare. No, Horace, I don't dare.
What do you mean?
You know as well as I do that you're the first citizen of London. You expect any wife of yours to keep open house, to have scores of friends in and out all the time? Any wife of yours should be used to that kind of thing.
Dolly, you can live any way you want.
Horace, you know as well as I do that your wife would have to be a somebody. Answer me. Am I a somebody?
You are. You're a wonderful woman.
Oh, you're partial. Horace, it won't be enough for you to load your wife up with money and jewels to insist that she be a benefactress to half the town. Do you really think I have it in me to be a credit to you?
Dolly, everybody knows that you can live any way you like.
I'll try. With your help, I'll try. And by the way, I found your purse.
Where did you... Wonderful woman.
It walked right into my hand. I don't know how I do it. Sometimes I frighten myself. Take it, Horace. Money walks out of my hands, too.
Keep it. Keep it.
Horace Vandergelder, I never thought I'd hear you say a thing like that.
Oh, excuse me. I didn't know anybody was in here.
Didn't know anybody was in here. Idiot!
Come in, Barnaby, come in.
Come in, Barnaby. Come in.
Cornelius, go over here, Miss Malloy.
Isn't that fine, Horace?
Barnaby, go in and tell the others that Mrs. Levi has consented.
Finally consented.
Finally consented to become my wife.
Holy cabooses. Hey, listen, everybody. Wolf Trap. Mr. Vanderbilt.
Dolly, that's the best news I ever heard. There isn't any more gingerbread, there isn't any more coffee, but there are 3 couples in my house, and they're all going to get married. And did you know? One of those urban guards wasn't a dear little girl at all. She was a boy. Oh, that's what life is. Disappointment, illusion.
There isn't any more coffee, there isn't any more gingerbread, and there isn't any more play. But there is one more thing we have to do. Barnaby, come here. I think the youngest person here ought to tell us what the moral of the play is.
Oh, shucks. Oh, I think it's about adventure. The test of adventure is when you're in the middle of it, you say to yourself, I've got myself into an awful mess. Now I wish I was sitting quiet at home. And the sign that something's wrong with you is when you're sitting quiet at home, wishing you're out having lots of adventures. So now we'd like to thank you for coming tonight, and hope you have just the right amount of sitting quietly at home and just the right amount of adventure. Good night.
Mrs. Zoll put so much time and dedication and patience into the play every year, and it would not go half as well as it does if we didn't have her, so we just wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you for all your hard work. Who's been in a show before? And everybody who is new this year. Bring them on, and then we bring them up so that hopefully by the time that they're juniors and seniors, then they have the bigger parts. So thank you all for coming. We certainly appreciate it.